Sorry, Goose, but it's time to buzz the tower.
All right, that seems super bad.
Yeah, as Maverick's defense attorney, I've got to say he needs to, at this point, not say anything to anyone about what just happened, lock himself into a room, and hope for the best.
We're gonna have a good time. Always.
There's a new Top Gun, which reminded me they broke a whole bunch of laws in the original movie. But to talk about all the military law that Maverick and Goose broke, I needed some help. So I called in some air support. My friend, the lawyer and former major in the Marines, the scowl owl to my legal eagle, Spencer. Spencer, thanks for coming.
Happy to be here, Devin.
So apparently everyone on the internet is an expert in military law, but what makes you qualified to talk about all of the broken laws in Top Gun?
I was a judge advocate in the Marine Corps, where I prosecuted people, including on Marine Corps Air Base Miramar, which is where Top Gun was actually set. I was also an artillery officer and a joint terminal attack controller. I did that in Iraq, where I was calling in airstrikes. And what that means is I was working with pilots to my left, to my right, and above me, and I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. And now I'm a deputy district attorney in the Pacific Northwest, where I prosecute major felony crimes.
All right, internet, a real former Marine has entered the chat, so beware.
Devin, I've got the need.
The need for speed?
No, the need to put some pilots in jail.
All right, let's dig in.
What the hell are they doing here?
You know, it's a minor detail, but there's no actual such thing as a MiG-28.
Really? There's no MiG-28? That sounds like a real thing.
We happen to see a MiG-28 do a 4G negative dive.
No, there's actually a MiG-29, but I think they just subtracted one for this film for some reason.
The MiG-28?
Oh, okay, so what are the planes that are standing in for, well, whatever bad guy is antagonizing the Americans here?
The MiG-28?
Those are actually F-5s that have been painted black, and they add that little red star on the tail.
Aha, interesting.
You know, fun fact, they actually never identify who the enemy or the opposition is in this entire movie. And we know for a fact that it's the same one at the beginning and at the end. It's just the opposite side, the bad side. We don't know.
Dave, this is Ghost Rider 117. This bogey's all over me. He's got missile lock on me. Do I have permission to fire?
Do not fire until fired upon.
So this is an odd situation. It's not unusual for there to be tension between militaries where the governments aren't exactly friendly to each other. I mean, we have to understand this film as we are not at war with this other country. This is the Cold War, there are tensions, but we're not actually in a shooting war. The problem is, the second that anyone shoots, the other person gets to shoot back. In the law of war, self-defense is always available to a party. So the pilot here is actually making the right choice. We're not going to start the war. And whoever that commander is saying, you don't get to shoot until you're fired upon because the U.S. doesn't want to start this firing war. Yeah, and anyone who's in the military who's going to be going into either direct combat operations or close to combat operations, they're going to be advised on all sorts of rules of engagement, what they're allowed to do, what kind of permission they have to get to engage. But one thing that every single soldier, Marine, sailor is taught before going on a deployment is you are allowed to act in self-defense. You just have to use your judgment and be real careful before you start a shooting war with someone that we're not in a shooting war with.
Is this your idea of fun, man?
Greetings.
Watch the birdie.
Okay, now, I'm just a humble country lawyer here, but it seems to me that if an F-14 was inverted on top of an F-5, that the tail wings would absolutely smack each other. And even if they weren't somehow, that seems like such an inherently dangerous thing that if I was the commanding officer of these pilots, I would not want them to go inverted, because if they crashed, they would have started a complete international incident. That seems like a really bad idea.
I mean, this is the kind of behavior which is so Hollywood, but they're committing a crime right now. Oddly enough, they're committing a crime. As cool as it is, the crime is improperly hazarding an aircraft. And the reality of that crime is that in time of war, you could get the death penalty for that.
Yes, sir.
But admittedly, looks cool as hell.
Well, and that's rule number one. Rule number one in the military is look cool.
Trouble. Come on, Mav. We're getting low on gas. Let's land this sucker.
God damn it!
Okay, so is the instruction to land, is that an order? Did he disobey an order to go up and help a fellow pilot? Also, I don't know how you help another pilot from another plane, but that's a separate issue.
You know, he's committing at least 2 different crimes right now. He's willfully disobeying an order from a superior commissioned officer.
To land that plane, that's an order.
He was instructed to land. He's got to land. He's also improperly hazarding an aircraft. The fuel is low, and he's going off to do something, apparently give moral support to a pilot.
Moral support.
I don't know if he's planning on ejecting from his plane into the other plane to give maybe a back rub and like help out his buddy, but either way, it's not looking good.
So you're saying it's not standard operating procedure to fly a plane without fuel to try and give moral support to a pilot who seems to be under the weather for some reason.
You know, that's generally frowned upon, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I know this one. Tom Cruise is driving a motorcycle very fast in California with no helmet on whatsoever. That is a violation of California's vehicular code. It might be petty, but it's a $250 fine and or a year of probation.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And, I mean, these pilots are probably radioing to the tower saying, who the hell is this random guy driving his motorcycle along the flight line, shaking his fist at us? I'd get an investigation at least.
And also, as someone who rides a motorcycle, I can't fathom riding without a helmet. I know there are some states that you can ride a motorcycle without a helmet. First of all, it's dangerous enough without a helmet. Like, you should wear a helmet because the injuries of people that don't wear a helmet are gruesome and grotesque. But also, if you're riding really fast, there's so much wind. Your aviator sunglasses don't do that much. So if you value your life, please wear a helmet while you ride a motorcycle, whether it's in California or anywhere else, please.
I'm Charlotte Blackwood.
I'm Maverick.
Maverick? Does your mother not like you or something?
No, it's my call sign.
Okay, that is so cringe. That is so cringe. You just don't do that. That is the biggest dork move in the world.
What's going on here?
He's introducing himself by his call sign to a civilian. I mean, that is so cringe. But it's also unrealistic. And the reason it's unrealistic is because no one has a cool call sign like that. Maverick, Iceman, you don't get call signs like that. Every call sign is going to be something unique and weird about you or something that you did, which is borderline embarrassing / humiliating. If you were to go into a place and say, I want my call sign to be Maverick, you would probably be hazed to the point of death. Don't do this. Don't do this.
But they had a connection.
So, I have no doubt in Maverick's mind that he has a special connection with this lady. Ooh. And that this was an invitation with her eyes for him to come join her in the ladies' room. Let me put it this way. He's probably breaking at least 3 laws here. Let's assume for a second that this poor woman had no intention of inviting Maverick into the ladies' room.
I think that's probably safe to say, yeah.
Yeah, so he's basically committing a couple different crimes. 1, conduct unbecoming an officer or gentleman. This is so basic. That is literally the text of the statute. Conduct unbecoming an officer or gentleman. All it requires to show is that he's doing something indecent, immoral, something wrong. It's also probably prejudicial to good order and discipline or has a tendency to discredit the armed forces, which is a violation of Article 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Yeah, well, it sounds bad when you put it that way.
I mean, he's in uniform on base. This kind of behavior is really dangerous for him.
She has a PhD in astrophysics, and she's also a civilian contractor, so you do not salute her. But you better listen to her because the Pentagon listens to her about your proficiency. It's all yours, Charlie.
Thank you. Hello?
Okay, so is it at all realistic that there would be a civilian who is some sort of contractor that would be providing some instruction to the pilots at Top Gun?
I don't think it's unusual, or I don't think it's so unusual that it's unrealistic. We have civilian contractors everywhere in the military doing a wide variety of things, and especially people who have specific training and experience, like having a PhD in astrophysics. I'm sure that they could be useful to some extent. Probably not talking about tactics, but talking about the aerodynamics of the aircraft, things like that.
I'm not sure that astrophysics would help with aerodynamics. I think...
Was it astrophysics?
PhD in astrophysics?
They said astrophysics. So unless they're charting with the stars, I'm not sure her PhD is going to help that much. I guess we're assuming that she has a bunch of other experience in the private sector that led her to this expertise.
Well, it is possible, I suppose, that Top Gun 2 is actually going to be in space.
Yes! Yes! In space!
Welcome to the danger zone.
That's classified.
It's what?
It's classified. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Lieutenant, I have top secret clearance. The Pentagon sees to it that I know more than you.
Yeah, okay. So, I've never been in the military, but I do have a lot of friends who have TSSCI clearance, and she might have that kind of clearance, but none of them necessarily have TSSCI, right? Like, I don't think all of those pilots are necessarily going to have the clearance to be able to hear what he just said. He can't tell people without that particular clearance.
I mean, yeah, I would assume every single officer has secret clearance at least.
Okay.
But getting TSSCI is actually somewhat more unusual. It costs a lot of money, and actually has quite a bit of value on the private sector once you leave the military.
Yes, I have heard that.
I will say this. For all of you who are watching, if you have a little bit of classified information that you're not allowed to tell anyone, and a civilian just tells you, oh, it's okay, I have security clearance too, do not give them that classified information. It's going to be a bad day for you if that person does not, in fact, have that security clearance.
No, ma'am, this is not a good idea.
Sorry, Goose, but it's time to buzz the tower.
Goddamn son of a bitch.
All right, that seems super bad.
Yeah, as Maverick's defense attorney, I've got to say he needs to, at this point, not say anything to anyone about what just happened, lock himself into a room, and hope for the best.
So, yeah, what did he just do there?
A number of crimes. I mean, honestly, this is one of those cases where he could get racked up on maybe 5 different counts. He certainly willfully disobeyed the order of a superior commissioned officer. There's another article at the UCMJ about drunken or reckless operation of an aircraft. There's another one, reckless endangerment. There's another, conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman, improperly hazarding an aircraft. Some of those could carry the death penalty. The reality is, some of those would be harder to prove, some would be easier. The one that he absolutely just did is disobeying that order, and that's a bad, bad thing for him.
Yeah, it seems like in the military, you kind of have to follow orders.
We follow orders or people die.
It's strongly suggested, and unfortunately, in the real world, not only would he get grounded, he would probably lose his wings entirely and spend the rest of his time on his contract like filling sandbags or doing something very menial in an office.
Sounds about right.
That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous.
That's right. Nice, man. I am dangerous.
That's what we call an admission. And unfortunately for him, it is absolutely true and goes back to some of the reckless things that he's been doing this entire time. Again, as Maverick's defense attorney, I strongly advise him to remain silent when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Okay, so that reminds me of a certain fan theory about Top Gun, which is that Top Gun is really a love story between 2 characters, not Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis, but rather Tom Cruise's character and Val Kilmer's character, Iceman. If, let's say, Maverick and Iceman were not married, but then decided to have a relationship with each other, would that violate any rules of the UCMJ.
So what it would probably violate would be a regulation that says people who are on the same command cannot have intimate relationships. Now, because they're both at the Top Gun school, you're not allowed to have an intimate relationship just because of the way that could impact the school, the command, etc. However, once they're outside of Top Gun, as long as they're not in the same unit, they can have the most wonderful relationship that they could possibly want. And I wish them the best.
You can be my wingman anytime.
You know, funny story, I actually was a military prosecutor assigned to what is now Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, and I watched at least one pilot get prosecuted. One pilot got entirely dismissed from the Marine Corps. He was a test pilot for an F-35, and it was for adultery. He got kicked out for adultery.
So, I mean, that's not a crime for civilians. That's a crime for service members?
It absolutely is. And it is actually a frighteningly common crime for service members. Now, it's not enough that you had an affair when you're married or you had an affair with someone who is married. There has to be something additional to it. It has to be either prejudicial to good order and discipline or have a tendency to discredit the armed forces. But in adultery cases, they're not that hard to show. And
yeah, I mean, so why would adultery be something that the military cares about?
Well, for one, there are a lot of moralistic prigs who are in the military. But the other part of it is you really can't have people, especially in the same chain of command or on the same base, who are themselves married and having affairs with other people on the base. So, for example, let's say that you're a captain, like Maverick. You're single, but you decide to have an affair with someone who's married on the base, and that person is a civilian, but married to another officer, for example. That can cause real tensions inside of the base, inside of the command, and that is prejudicial to good order and discipline because you're introducing so much possibility for anger, recrimination. It's just something you want to avoid entirely.
Sir, I had Commander Heatherly in my sights. He saw me move in for the kill. He then proceeded below the hard deck. We weren't below 10,000 for more than a few seconds. I had the shot. There was no danger, so I took it.
So here's the problem with this. What he did by going underneath the hard deck was a violation of the regulations. But also, let's talk about what the hard deck really meant in this context.
Yeah, what does that mean?
The hard deck simulates the ground. So when he says that he went beneath the hard deck only for a few seconds, that's like saying in your aircraft, you went beneath the ground for a couple seconds. That hard deck is there for everyone's safety so that you have lots of buffer room in a training environment. And for him to just be underneath it for a couple seconds, well, you know, I'm sure the aircraft will be fine underneath the desert of California for a couple seconds.
It's an aircraft and a submarine. That's
Yes.
how good we are.
We're getting there, guys.
The communication ship SS Layton has become disabled and has wandered into foreign territory. A rescue operation is to begin within the hour. Your mission is to give air support to that rescue.
So this is kind of a complicated setup. We're obviously, tensions are high, and there's the possibility of war or some sort of hostile act here where we actually are going to see combat. Now, we have to assume that what that means in the film is that this ship has drifted into what are called territorial waters. Now, territorial waters for any country on the ocean, they extend about 12 miles out. But because the law of the sea, there's an exception to that, which is called innocent passage. So what innocent passage means is, if another ship goes through and all they're doing is going to port or going through those territorial waters with innocent motives, then you can't just attack them. It's not an invasion of the country or anything like that. Now, what they can do, of course, is they can police their territorial waters. So someone comes in on innocent passage, you can board them, you can search them, you can do a variety of things to make sure that it is in fact innocent passage. So the problem is that while there's innocent passage in the sea, there is no such thing as innocent passage in the air. The second that a U.S. combat aircraft goes into the airspace above another country's territorial waters, that could be very clearly seen as an act of war.
Oh, well, that complicates things a lot, I think.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that the American planes are entering into a zone of danger, a sort of danger zone.
They are, in fact, going into the danger zone.
Danger zone! All right, so we've already talked about how much of a blatant violation buzzing the tower is back in Miramar. Assuming that they weren't run out on rail, what would happen if they buzzed a tower again after being reprimanded the first time?
Nothing good. In fact, very, very bad things. I think it's safe to say that at this point, Maverick is not just going to be stripped of his wings, but he's probably going to get dismissed from the service.
And also, on top of it, we're at war now. This unidentified country has shot down an American plane. I think, by all reasonable accounts, that means that we are at war with this country. Seems like a really super bad time to be showboating.
Absolutely. And the reality is, I mean, we do find out slightly later in this film that this other country is going to decide that, hey, it's no big deal. But we don't know that right now. Everyone on this aircraft carrier has to assume that we are at war right now with this country. And yet we're doing a flyby.
Yeah. That seems bad.
Suboptimal. Somewhere, there is a chief petty officer in the Navy screaming and sobbing into a pillow. The fact that we are in war right now, or at least we have to assume that we're in war, and the entire deck crew is abandoning their posts, running out to celebrate these guys, when for all we know, there's a bunch of other MiGs heading directly for this aircraft carrier. I mean, these people need to be at their posts. They need to be they need to be refueling, refitting these aircraft. They need to be getting combat air patrol out there, and instead they're all just having the time of their lives. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say.
It looks like they just won a college football game.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely just scored a touchdown. Unfortunately, we may have nukes in the other end zone.
All right, Spencer, now we need to tally all the crimes. How long is Tom Cruise's Maverick going to jail?
Let me put it this way. If we are, in fact, at war, he's probably going to get the death penalty. If we're not actually at war, he's probably going to get, let's say about 3 to 4 years in the brig and a dismissal from the armed forces.
And a $250 fee for not wearing a helmet while riding a motorcycle.
That really is the knife that twists, isn't it?
Well, Spencer, you can be my wingman anytime.
No, Devin, you can be mine.
You two characters are going to Top Gun.
So the Navy's gonna fire Maverick, or I guess they might hang him from a yardarm? But this is America, so he'll probably just sue to get his job back. And he could really benefit from my feature-length master course on Nebula classes. It's called How to Sue Like a Lawyer. I take you through the legal process step by step in a fun and entertaining way. You know, in case you ever need to sue someone, or you're just curious how that whole thing works. And not only that, but I have another class called Copyright for Fun and Profit. It explains everything you ever wanted to know about copyright and IP, whether you're a creator, artist, or student. Because today's sponsor, Nebula Classes, is a brand new part of Nebula, the creator-owned streaming platform that I'm building with a bunch of my creator friends. Every class is insanely well-produced and entertaining. We fly every creator to New York to shoot with the entire Nebula Classes team. It's a little bit like Masterclass from the creators that you love. I promise you, you will get lost in the rabbit hole of amazing classes. Because it's not just my classes. There are classes from Thomas Frank on productivity, Amy Nolte on jazz improv, Sam from Wendover on persuasion, and tons of others. We have new classes dropping every week, led by your favorite creators and experts in their field. And it's not just full-length classes, we're also hosting Nebula Talks, inspirational short-form guest lectures, kind of like TED from the creators that you love. And better yet, since Classes is part of Nebula, you'll also get access to all of my exclusive and ad-free content that I usually release early. And Nebula has just passed over 500,000 happily paying customers. So if you're one of the few people that hasn't already signed up, now is your chance to discover the greatest collection of thought-provoking videos on the planet. And you'll find new things to discover every day. And you can watch all of this great stuff just about anywhere with your iPhone, iPad, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku apps. And best of all, if you're already a Nebula subscriber, upgrading to Classes is just an extra $5 per month. And if you're signing up for the first time, the whole thing is only $10 per month or $100 per year. But for a limited time, if you go to nebulaclasses.com/LegalEagle or click on the link that's on screen right now or in the description, there's a special discount of 20% off. The easiest thing to do is click on the link that's on screen right now to access the amazing Nebula classes. Those funds go directly to the creators and funds even more amazing content. Again, just click on the link that's on screen or in the description to see why Nebula Classes rocks. And while you're there, click on this other link for all of my other videos, or I'll see you in court.